The shining golden scripts appeared in the air and circled Hua Wudao. Then, they dropped down in a radiant circle. Leng Luo, Hua Yuxing, and Duan Musheng looked down from above. When Hua Wudao landed, the fire had already spread out in a line. It was picking up speed as it progressed toward Golden Court Mountain. However, he was in no hurry. He merely observed the direction and position of the fire with a slight frown. Clearly, the fire was a pre-planned opening to their assault. The fire was getting closer. After Hua Wudao was done with his observations, he calmly walked into the fire. When he took a step forward, the 8 trigrams seal appeared under his feet and moved with him. The scripts surfaced from his body again. Heaven, earth, life, death, water, fire, being, non-being, and separation. The 9 golden, shining scripts circled around Hua Wudao. As he walked into the flames, the scripts released a protective layer of energy that kept the fire at bay. The sea of flames finally engulfed Hua Wudao. He placed both hands on his danshan and felt his primal chi surged. With the 8 trigrams at the center, his 9 script 6 compatible seal expanded. Whiz! It resembled a shining golden bubble as it expanded. As he witnessed this grand display, Leng Luo nodded and offered his praise. He's replicating the Pavilion Master's 10 script 6 compatible seal. It would most definitely cover almost all of Golden Court Mountain. A 9 script seal might just do the trick to put out the flames. Admittedly, the scene was slightly laughable. Indeed, it was somewhat a waste to task a Grand 7-Leaf Elite to extinguish a fire. The glow and movements of the flames alerted the others in the Evil Sky Pavilion as well. They rose into the air and looked at the fire from afar. Zhu Honggong appeared within sight and said, "That's a big fire. I'll have to report this to Master." Before he could even turn around, he was stopped by Zhao Yue, who had hurried over. She said, "There's no need for that. I've gone to the Eastern Pavilion. Master is resting, and we shouldn't disturb him." Oh, Zhu Honggong nodded. The others saw the flames at the base of the mountain being pushed away by the huge radiant circle. Nearly half of the fire was covered by the radiant circle and was extinguished immediately. Hua Wudao did not stop there. He unleashed his grand technique and moved to a different spot. He extinguished the fire there with the same method. After using his 6 compatible seal a couple of times, the fire around Golden Court Mountain was completely put out. Everything was dark once more. Hua Wudao vanished from sight as well. Darkness enveloped them. The dim moonlight was insufficient to illuminate much. Leng Luo looked at Hua Yuxing. He noticed that her eyes were glinting with a faint golden hue. He nodded and praised her. "You display remarkable talent at your young age. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can achieve in the future." Duan Musheng noticed the peculiar display by Hua Yuxing as well. He asked, "What cultivation method is this?" Godly archers usually engage in long-range attacks. They need great visual strength and the ability to fire rapidly. Most godly archers would focus on raising their cultivation bases, thereby improving their rapid fire ability. However, focal strength is a secret art of the Luo sect. With this, the user's vision at night will be greatly enhanced. Leng Luo explained. "I see." Leng Luo sighed and said, "The younger generation is catching up. It seems." Hua Yuxing stopped using her secret art. Her eyes returned to normal as she said, "Elder Hua is still at the foot of the mountain. The fire was blazing earlier, and it can easily rekindle. He's planning to wait." The others nodded. Zhu Honggong quickly grew bored. "Here I was hoping for a show. If I'd known this was going to happen, I would have continued sleeping." Hua Wudao was indeed keeping an eye on the situation. He intended to prevent the people from rekindling the fire. He flew low above the ground. After completely extinguishing the flames, he landed, satisfied that there were no more issues. Hua Wudao shook his head and felt sorry to see the scenery before himself. For a few hundred meters, everything had turned to ash. Just when he was about to turn around and leave, more than 10 people flew toward him. They did not make much noise, but Hua Wudao could just pick up the sounds of their movements. He frowned slightly. It was better for him to return to the mountain as fast as he could. The dozen or so men were flying toward him at top speed. Hua Wudao was slightly shocked. He looked ahead. When the newcomers were finally in sight, he saw their faces that were illuminated by the moonlight. Yun sect's Grand Elder Fang Wenxian. Hua Wudao was confused. He did not think the Yun sect was part of the Fiend Extermination Alliance. Moreover, the Evil Sky Pavilion had visited the Luo sect's first holy land. The Evil Sky Pavilion had also decided to not hold on to past grudges with the Yun sect. What were they doing here? They were showing themselves after the Great Fire. This was too much of a coincidence. This was definitely suspicious. Fang Wenxian brought with him more than 10 men. They stopped and hovered in the air near Hua Wudao. Hua Wudao, on the orders of the Patriarch, we are to take you back with us. If you'd kindly cooperate. Fang Wenxian raised a hand and made an inviting gesture. Hua Wudao frowned and said, the Patriarch has stopped caring about the affairs of the world a long time ago. Why would he give such an order? You'll have to take my word for it. Fang Wenxian said. Then, he drew a golden arc across the moonlit night sky. Whoosh! Fang Wenxian's expression darkened. He saw the energy arrow sailing toward him. He retreated and launched hand seals into the air to repel the attack. Hua Yuxing. This energy arrow was shot by the three-leaf godly archer atop the Evil Sky Pavilion. Hua Yuxing. When Hua Yuxing saw what was happening, she had mercilessly fired the shot. The fierce energy arrow shocked Fang Wenxian. Hua Wudao chuckled and said, considering the fact that we're once from the same sect, you should get lost. If the rest of them are here, you won't be able to leave even if you want to. Fang Wenxian's expression remained unchanged as he chuckled and said, we're already here, aren't we? We won't be leaving so easily. He waved his hand. The men he brought with him removed their hats, exposing their faces. Hua Wudao's eyes widened as he said in shock, the 10 elders of the Yun sect. You. He pointed a finger at Fang Wenxian. Furious. However, when he recalled that he was no longer one of the 10 elders of the Yun sect and that his own position had been taken up by another, he realized there was no need for him to care. He suppressed his anger, waved his hand, and said, get lost now, otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Fang Wenxian smiled and said, that won't do. Unless the Evil Sky Pavilion's Patriarch is willing to surrender the Patriarch's chessboard. The item stored by the Patriarch within the chessboard is a treasure of the 3 sects. How can we hand it over to the Evil Sky Pavilion for nothing? Fang Wenxian smiled and gestured with his hand. At this moment, behind the 10 elders who were hovering in the air, a younger cultivator appeared. The young cultivator bowed in midair and said, Master. Hua Wudao scowled and said, Zhang Feivan. It was Zhang Feivan who accompanied him during his first visit to the Evil Sky Pavilion. At that time, he had no idea that he would be staying in the Evil Sky Pavilion. He had kicked Zhang Feivan away because he had no choice and because he wanted to save his life. A long time had passed since then. Things seemed to have taken quite an unexpected turn. Zhang Feivan said, this will be my last time addressing you as my master. Please repent before it's too late. Is that how you talk to your master? Hua Wudao seethed with anger. If you repent, I'll continue to be your disciple. Zhang Feivan bowed. Get lost. His sound wave rolled toward them. Just when the sound wave was about to reach Zhang Feivan, the 10 elders gathered and blocked it. The sound wave dissipated into nothingness. Hua Wudao, you're a senior, aren't you? I feel ashamed on your behalf to see you pushing a junior around. One of the elders said mockingly. The 8 trigrams appeared under Hua Wudao's feet. A radiant circle appeared. Seems like you're here to look for trouble. Fang Wenxian spread his arms. With the same tone, he said, looks like you have no intention of repenting. The 10 elders flew up. The scripts emerged from Hua Wudao's body again. 10 energy arrows shot down from the direction of the Evil Sky Pavilion at the 10 elders. Bam! 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 The 10 elders launched hand seals at the arrows. Hua Wudao's 6 compatible seal burst forth with radiance. He did not move forward. Instead, he was retreating at top speed. At this moment, in the skies behind Hua Wudao, a black silhouette appeared. The moonlight glinted off his silver mask. His voice was deep and hoarse as he said, Yun sect's 10 elders, how bold of you. Leng Luo. Leng Luo's appearance stopped the Yun sect's 10 elders in their tracks. Back at the Luo sect's holy land, they had witnessed firsthand Leng Luo's methods. This was the man whose name once shocked the heavens. Not only was his name on the top of the blacklist 300 years ago, But he was also a rare 8-leaf elite. Fang Wenxian cupped his fists and said, "This is a matter of the Yun sect. I humbly ask that you stay out of this." Senior. Nonsense. Leng Luo said harshly. Hua Wudao is an elder of the evil Sky Pavilion. What does he have to do with the Yun sect? I do not like to waste my breath. You're to get out of my sight in 10 breaths. After he said this, he moved rapidly to the front of Hua Wudao. With the display of this Dao invisibility technique, the 10 elders did not dare to take Leng Luo lightly. They exchanged a look among themselves. Fang Wenxian said lightly, "I heard that you detonated your Sea of Qi when you fought the Grand Shaman. Moly. And your cultivation base isn't restored yet. Once the head of the Black Knights. Fan Shuwen, look at you know, nothing but a lackey of the evil Sky Pavilion." The irony. Not many knew about these things. How did Fang Wenxian find out about this? Leng Luo would not let anyone slight him. With lightning speed, he was upon the 10 elders. He did not waste time and summoned his 8-leaf avatar. Boom! It shrunk before it expanded. The 10 elders were sent flying in the air. Their blood essences surged. Leng Luo hovered in the air with his hands on his back. He swept his cold gaze across the 10 elders. Fang Wenxian and Zhang Feivan were standing nearby. They were watching this scene with shocked expressions on their faces. Meanwhile, among the charred forest in the distance, something rustled in the ashes. There were many cultivators lying in wait among the trees. When they saw this, they were shocked as well. We've underestimated the evil Sky Pavilion. That's an 8-leaf avatar. With Pan Lishan out, that person must be Leng Luo. They were some ways away and could not get a clear look. Let's continue watching. Rustle. The crowd remained hidden in the dark forest as they watched the battle at the foot of Golden Court Mountain from a distance. Leng Luo's attack connected with his targets. He stood with his hands on his back and said, "Wine sacks and food bags." The 10 elders stabilized themselves and regarded Leng Luo in fear. Fang Wenxian said after he clicked his tongue, "Leng Luo, are you the only one keeping the evil Sky Pavilion afloat? 300 years ago, you've committed every atrocity imaginable. Why are you trying to be a guardian deity all of a sudden? Why don't you defect? When the evil Sky Pavilion is destroyed, you'll be hailed as one of the greatest contributors. How about that?" This time, Leng Luo did not reply. He vanished from where he stood. Fang Wenxian felt his heart sink. The 10 elders were caught off guard as well. Was Leng Luo not hurt? Boom! Leng Luo's avatar appeared again. This time it appeared beside Fang Wenxian. At the same time, Leng Luo struck with his palm. Fang Wenxian frowned. He blocked with his arms. Bam! The others were sent flying again. Shadow strata. Leng Luo folded his palms and moved them back and forth. His primal chi surged as he once again vanished from sight. In the next second, the skies were covered in dark shadows. They charged toward the reeling Fang Wenxian. Bam! 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 Densely packed hand seals shone with golden radiance. The butterflies flying in the air landed on Fang Wenxian's body. Grand Elder. The others were frightened. Leng Luo was too powerful. An 8-leaf elite was too terrifying. Hua Wudao was overwhelmed with emotions when he saw this. The evil Sky Pavilion disciples were excited as well. Bam! 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 From the moment Fang Wenxian reeled back to the moment he fell. Only a few breaths had passed. They lost count of the number of hand seals Leng Luo launched in this short span of time. Boom! Fang Wenxian crashed onto the ground. Leng Luo hovered in midair. He placed his hands on his back and looked down at them. Is that all? The scene was as silent as a graveyard. The 10 elders did not expect Leng Luo to be this powerful. Hua Wudao was also stunned by Leng Luo's combat strength. The evil Sky Pavilion disciples thought Leng Luo was skilled in fleeing and that his combat strength was not as powerful as Pan Lishan's. They did not expect him to be this terrifying when he was in a frenzy. Fang Wenxian launched into a coughing fit. He sat up with difficulty and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked up at the skies and laughed before he said, "Well, there's no doubt you're injured. If Leng Luo was uninjured, he would have died with this strike." Grand Elder. The 10 elders approached Fang Wenxian and stood before him. Their eyes were firmly trained on Leng Luo in the air. They said in unison, "Combine strength." The 10 of them arranged themselves in a triangular formation. The elder in front extended his hands while the others placed their hands on the back of the person before them. Their primal chi flowed along their arms and quickly entered the elder standing in the lead. A huge hand seal sailed toward Leng Luo. Leng Luo struck at the air and moved backward. Combined strength again. Another huge hand seal sailed toward Leng Luo. This time, its speed was clearly much faster. Boom! Suddenly, Hua Wudao's 6 compatible seal burst forth with a golden radiance and shrouded Leng Luo. The huge hand seal collided with the 6 compatible seal. A huge radiant circle expanded as energy scattered into the surroundings. Master, listen to me. Leave the evil sky pavilion at once. Zhang Feivan called out from the back. Hua Wudao would not have been irritated if this had been said by someone else. However, Zhang Feivan was once his disciple whom he had invested much of his time and energy in teaching. And yet, his disciple was here mocking him. How could he not feel angry? With the 8 trigrams under his feet, he stepped forward. He pushed forward with his 6 compatible seal. The 10 elders combined their strength and pushed forward as well. Boom, boom, boom. The huge hand seal pushed against the 6 compatible seal. But it could not break it. 7 leaf. You're at the 7 leaf stage now. Fang Wenxian got up with difficulty. An incredulous expression could be seen on his face. Hua Wudao's trauma was common knowledge among the members of the Yun sect. He did not show any signs of a breakthrough for 20 years. Fang Wenxian did not expect him to reach the 7 leaf stage after joining the evil sky pavilion. A 7 leaf cultivator and an injured 8 leaf cultivator. The 10 elders had varying cultivation bases, but the greatest of them all was only at the 5 leaf stage. How were they supposed to fight these two? The formation, Fang Wenxian ordered. Roger. The 10 elders stopped launching hand seals and adjusted their positions. At this very moment, Leng Luo's body vanished from sight again. Too late. After images shot toward them, Leng Luo appeared among them and unleashed his 8-leaf avatar again. When there was a difference in realms, the crushing force of an avatar was even more apparent. Before one's opponent, one's avatar's height, toughness, width, and the force of expansion could crush a weaker avatar. There was no other way to deal with such an attack aside from dodging it. However, Leng Luo was known for his speed. He would never give them the opportunity to evade him. Boom! They reeled back. Hua Wudao stepped into the air at this moment. He struck with his palm. Bam! One of them reeled and collided with the inner wall of the 6 compatible seal. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Hua Wudao has learned how to attack. Duan Musheng dove with his overlord spear in hand. When Zhu Honggong saw this, he laughed and said, "All hail the evil sky pavilion. All hail the old ones." Xiao Yue looked at Zhu Honggong in disgust. Meanwhile, Leng Luo erupted with his power again and lunged at Fang Wenxian. Hua Wudao trapped the 10 elders with his 6 compatible seal. They had nowhere to run. Who said the 6 compatible seal could only be used as a defensive move? This was an effective and wonderful mobile prison. It was like a giant net. At this moment, they suddenly realized that the powerful one here was not Leng Luo but Hua Wudao. Hua Wudao shrunk his 6 compatible seals so the 10 elders were drawn closer together. Avatars. The 10 elders shouted simultaneously. 10 avatars pushed against each other in that cramped space. The golden radiances overlapped, and the avatars overlapped. The glare was almost blinding. Boom! Die! Hua Wudao. The 10 elders came to a tacit agreement. They were well versed in coordinated attacks. Was this explosion within the confines of the 6 compatible seal not placing himself at the mouth of the tiger? The tides of the battle were effervescent. Nobody could know who would emerge victorious until the very end. The numerous cultivators in the forest who were watching the battle felt nervous. This is bad. Elder Hua's in trouble. Whoosh! Whoosh! Energy arrows sailed from the evil sky pavilion. Hua Yuxing pulled on her bow with a furious expression. She applied all that she had learned. The pace at which she formed energy arrows was reaching the extremes as well. Bam! 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 The energy arrows hit the nearest elder. Very good. Hua Wudao retreated through the air. He retracted his 6 compatible seal briefly before unleashing it again. It was enough to hit one of them. The elders' concerted efforts had been thrown off. Boom! The others were pushed away by Hua Wudao's 6 compatible seal. ... Nice one. You're doing great, old man. This was the strength of the old age pavilion. ... The 10 elders fell to the ground. Meanwhile, Leng Luo's tidal wave of hand seals landed on Fang Wenxian. Isolated and without help, Fang Wenxian took the brunt of the attacks. His face was bruised and swollen now. Bam! 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 Fang Wenxian was being hung up and beaten by Leng Luo. Leng Luo's body flitted about his target. Eventually, he hovered in midair and brought his foot down. Although Fang Wenxian had activated his protective energy and was doing his best to desperately defend himself and resist Leng Luo's advances. In front of a person with high agility, his defenses were full of holes that were completely exploited. Boom! Fang Wenxian crashed to the ground again. Zhang Feivan, Hua Wudao's former disciple, was stunned as he watched the battle nearby. He thought this move would force Hua Wudao and Leng Luo into desperate straits even if they could not kill those two. At that time, the evil Sky Pavilion disciples would be drawn out. He did not expect Fang Wenxian to suffer a crushing defeat by Leng Luo's hand before he could even do anything. Zhang Feifan's lips trembled. He looked at Fang Wenxian, who was lying in the pit, and ran over. Grand Elder. It was as though he had forgotten about Leng Luo, who was standing above Fang Wenxian. Leng Luo looked down coldly from his perch in midair with his hands on his back. Technically speaking, nobody in the evil Sky Pavilion could be as merciless as Leng Luo. The Yun sect's Grand Elder, Fang Wenxian, could not even retaliate under the barrage of attacks before he was defeated. It was unclear if he would be able to survive this. Zhang Feivan propped him up as best he could. Fang Wenxian spat out a mouthful of blood. Under the moonlight, his blood stained the ground a dazzling red. His lips trembled as he grabbed Zhang Feifan's right arm. His hand that was stained with blood left a bloody imprint on Zhang Feifan's arms. Zhang Feifan's sleeve was forcibly torn away. At this moment, his head lolled to the side after he breathed his last breath. He's dead. Zhang Feivan widened his eyes. The Grand Elder is dead. Grand Elder. The other 10 elders did not expect Leng Luo to be this powerful. They struggled to sit up straight, fearfully looking at Leng Luo. Leng Luo was pressing on his chest to subdue the pain. He seemed strained from the effort. The 10 elders were not in much better shapes themselves. At the moment they were sent flying by Hua Wudao's 6 compatible seal. They all sustained varying degrees of injuries. When Fang Wenxian died, the 10 of them were flustered. They gathered toward the center with their backs against each other as they formed an outward-facing circle. They looked up at Leng Luo and Hua Wudao. Whoosh! At the point where the moon shone the brightest, a thick and powerful arrow whistled loudly as it sailed in the air. The energy arrow penetrated one of the elders who merely possessed a 3-leaf cultivation base. It pierced his body and his heart. He glared and instinctively made to catch the energy arrow. As he clenched his fist, the energy arrow dispersed. 5th Elder, the other 9 elders exclaimed in shock. A bloody hole the size of a duck's egg could be seen on the 5th Elder's chest. With a wound like that on his vital organ, he was beyond help. The 5th Elder's eyes widened in shock as he looked in the direction of the evil Sky Pavilion and fell on his back. The 9 elders wanted to catch him, but Hua Wudao was walking toward them. Hua Wudao sighed and shook his head. I've warned you before. With your abilities, you can't even take me down. How can you even think about destroying the evil Sky Pavilion? You. Why you? Zhang Feivan, Hua Wudao barked. Zhang Feivan shuddered. He sprinted toward the forest. Rascal. Running away, Hua Wudao leaped. He jumped over the heads of the 9 injured elders and flew toward his former disciple. Zhang Feivan. The 9 elders wanted to stop him, but Leng Luo turned around and faced them. The 9 of them instinctively took a step forward as though they were facing a fierce monster. Hua Wudao flew at top speed. Zhang Feivan used everything in his arsenal to escape. It was as though his life depended on this. When he saw his rascal of a disciple running this quickly, Hua Wudao was enraged. He shouted, I'll clear the sect of you today. Swoosh. When Hua Wudao was almost on Zhang Feivan, shining golden talismans with dense and rich energy flew toward him. Bam! The instant Hua Wudao activated his 6 compatible seal, The scripts were kept at bay. A huge flying chariot emerged slowly from the forest before him. A black mass of cultivators was escorting the huge flying chariot. Under the moonlight, the aura of this group seemed peculiar. The Celestial Masters sect. Hua Wudao stopped chasing after Zhang Feivan. He looked at the huge flying chariot as he hovered in midair. A quiet voice rang from the flying chariot. According to the agreement of the Fiend Extermination Alliance, the Celestial Masters sect should jump in when Leng Luo appears. Hua Wudao, your opponents are the Yun sect's 10 elders. Hua Wudao understood what this meant. The Fiend Extermination Alliance had allotted the targets to the different factions. It was no wonder only the 10 elders of the Yun sect showed up when he appeared. He said, Taoist Master Zhu Yuan, since the Celestial Masters sect is here, where are the remaining 6 great sects? As he spoke, he cast his gaze into the distance in an attempt to locate the other sects. Within the huge flying chariot, Zhu Yuan did not answer Hua Wudao. Instead, he looked at Leng Luo who was hovering nearby. With a deep voice, he said, Leng Luo, I've always treasured my friendship with the Yun sect. Now that you killed Fang Wenxian, I can no longer sit back and not do anything. A piece of paper flew out of the flying chariot. Strange symbols were written on the paper. Against the moonlight, they ignited without warning. With a blinding golden light, they formed an energy seal. Hua Wudao would never allow this energy seal to get past him. He turned at once, folded his palms, and allowed his primal chi to surge. Boom! The script energy seal struck Hua Wudao's 6 compatible seal. The intense collision of energies made Hua Wudao take several steps backward. Shortly after, scripts of energy seals flew at him in rapid succession. When Leng Luo saw this, he said, Stand back. There was a flurry of movement. In truth, Leng Luo's method of crushing Fang Wenxian with all his strength was not sustainable. From the beginning until the end, Fang Wenxian was eliminated before he could unleash his skills. He could not maintain this level of power forever. The appearance of the Celestial Masters sect left them no choice but to retreat. You won't be going anywhere. Someone emerged from the top of the flying chariot with his hands on his back. His gaze was sharp and cold. It complemented the sneer on his face. He shot into the air. Behind his back, he flipped his hands several times, and talismans appeared between his fingers. The talismans shot toward Hua Wudao's 6 compatible seal like bullets. Hua Wudao could sense how formidable this opponent was. This was sect master of the Celestial Masters sect, Zhu Yuan. His cultivation base was unfathomable. He immediately activated his primal chi and raised the 6 compatible seal to its highest level. The 9 scripts spun and merged as one. Taoist Master Zhu Yuan scoffed and struck with both his palms. Several talismans burst forth with power and formed a cone-shaped attack. Bam! With the point of collision as the center, a vertical ripple spread out. Boom! A ravine appeared on the ground. Hua Wudao was sent reeling from the impact. His 6 compatible seal had been shattered. Both opponents faced each other from afar. Taoist Master Zhu Yuan placed his hands on his back and said in a deep voice as he hovered in the air. The 6 compatible seal originated from the Taoist sect to begin with. Indeed, it took me some time to break this seal. But it's not unbreakable. You came prepared. There seemed to be flames in Hua Wudao's eyes. Since he could come up with such a powerful defense, the others could naturally think of a way to counter his skills. The 6 compatible seal had Taoist roots to begin with, and so did the Celestial Masters sect. Talisman seals were their specialty. It could attach to shield-type Taoist seals and corrode them. Yes, I've come prepared. At this juncture, there was no need to beat around the bush. Hua Wudao shook his head. Zhu Yuan, you've grown much more shameless now. I'm merely meting out justice on behalf of the heavens. The Celestial Masters sect's Grand Elder, Zhang Daoran, lost his life to Yu Shangrong. Zhang Yunshan died under Bai Yuqing's hands. He's one of Yu Zhenghai's protectors. It's the law of nature to repay a life with a life. Moreover, the fiend path is getting out of hand, and everyone has a responsibility to persecute it. Zhu Yuan said self-righteously. Shouldn't a man who's supposed to die be killed? Hua Wudao, you've fallen into the fiend path. You're beyond help, Zhu Yuan said as he shot out. Whoosh! At this moment, energy arrows were fired from the top of the evil sky pavilion again. Alongside the energy arrows, there were also the disciples of the evil sky pavilion, Zhu Honggong, Zhao Yue, Duan Musheng, and Little Yuan. Leng Luo glanced at the forest in the distance and said in a deep voice, Zhu Yuan, you rejoiced too soon. Leng Luo's body began to fade out of focus. A 100-foot avatar advanced. A glaring light flashed in the forest in the distance. Figures were hovering under a huge tree. When he saw this, Leng Luo recalled his avatar and shouted, Begone! Leng Luo was everywhere. He was an 8-leaf cultivator. After all, he was not someone whom 7-leaf cultivators could hope to compare to. With a terrifying speed, he brought Hua Wudao away. Bam! 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 The energy arrows collided with the rapidly launched script energy seals. It was as if fireworks were being launched into the air. What a skilled godly archer! Zhu Yuan was slightly annoyed. Hua Yuxing's energy arrows seemed to be shot in a frenzy. It rained down on Zhu Yuan ceaselessly, cutting off his attacks. Zhu Yuan turned and said, What are you waiting for? From among the trees, a brighter and more powerful energy arrow shot toward the evil sky pavilion. Hua Yuxing, look out! There was a more powerful godly archer in the forest. Hua Yuxing stood atop the evil sky pavilion. When she saw the incoming energy arrow, she was momentarily stunned. She had been focusing on Hua Wudao and did all she could to ensure his safety. She did not expect there to be such a powerful godly archer here. Who was it? Her heart sank. This is bad. The energy arrow was too powerful and fast. Hua Yuxing closed her eyes. Bam! Just when Hua Yuxing thought she would die, she suddenly felt herself being picked up by someone else. She opened her eyes at once. What she saw was a faint bluish shield before herself. The evil sky pavilion's master, Lu Zhou, wielded the shield in his right hand. His left hand was holding her shoulder as they descended slowly. Pavilion master, Lu Zhou flipped his hand. The shield disappeared. The two of them were standing before the great hall in darkness. Their enemies could no longer see them. Lu Zhou placed Hua Yuxing down. He said, There's no need to be afraid. Hua Yuxing was certain she would lose her life to that shockingly powerful and fast arrow. Many thoughts flashed in her mind during the brief moment between her breaths. She had many unresolved regrets and many things that she had yet to accomplish. She did not expect the pavilion master to show up at that moment. Lu Zhou's appearance gave her a great sense of security. It was as though she had found her mainstay and a dependable backer. She fell to her knees immediately. Hua Yuxing thanks the pavilion master for his life-saving act. Lu Zhou waved his hand. A surge of energy brought her back up to her feet as he said, This isn't the time for that. Understood. Hua Yuxing immediately adjusted her posture. She wielded her falling moon bow and said, There should be a godly archer who's at least at the 5-leaf stage at the southwestern corner. He's not merely at the 5-leaf stage, Lu Zhou said as he stroked his beard. Lu Zhou stepped forward. Outside the great hall, he looked down at the battlefield. Hua Wudao had seen the shocking arrow shot as well. Hua Yuxing could no longer be seen at the point where the moonlight was the brightest. His widened eyes turned red. He felt his old and tired heart break. He moved his arms and broke free of Leng Luo's grasp. Hua Yuxing, Elder Hua, what are you doing? Leng Luo frowned. Compared to him, Leng Luo was much calmer and more rational. Hua Wudao broke free and advanced instead of retreating. The evil sky pavilion disciples hovered before the mountain with a shocked expression on their faces. Elder Hua, are you out of your mind? Yet, Hua Wudao did not seem to hear them. His eyes were aflame as he unleashed his 9-script 6 compatible seal. Primal chi surged wildly from his body. He cried out, You'll pay with your life. The most powerful 6 compatible C in history appeared. The sect master of the Celestial Masters sect, Taoist Master Zhu Yuan, who was charging forward, was taken aback by this development. Perhaps, Hua Wudao's fighting style had been one that was passively defending all of his life. Over the past 20 years, he struggled against his trauma with the sole purpose of proving that a cultivator could pursue a simple aspect of cultivation to its extremes. That was how determined and tenacious he was. He was willing to spend 20 years just to overcome a trauma. He would spend 100 years to make up for a regret. He would avenge his kin with his life. The 9 scripts of the 6 compatible seal were spinning at an unprecedented speed. Hua Wudao stood among his Taoist seals and joined his palms. There was only one person left in his sight, Zhu Yuan, the sect master of the Celestial Masters sect. The vast 6 compatible seal shot past the heads of the Yun sect's 9 elders. Energy scattered, and the 9 of them reeled back. Blood rained down onto the surroundings. The gap between their strengths was clearly displayed. On the other hand, Zhu Yuan looked excited. He rose into the air as well. Dozens of talismans flew out and ignited. They merged and formed a round energy seal shield that resembled an 8 trigram. The shield appeared in front of him. This was a slightly comical sight to behold. Hua Wudao, the skilled defender, was attacking while Zhu Yuan, the skilled attacker, was defending. One of them was throwing his life away while the other was trying to preserve his own life. Just when the 6 compatible seal was before Zhu Yuan, Hua Wudao's reddened eyes gleamed coldly. He shouted, "Die!" He joined his palms perpendicularly and pushed forward. The 9 scripts of his 6 compatible seal converged between his palms and formed an energy sword. He thrust it forward. The energy sword pierced Zhu Yuan's chest. Sect Master. The disciples and elders of the Celestial Masters sect were shocked by this sight. It was as though time and space had frozen. Hua Wudao was indeed skilled in defense. However, this did not mean that he did not know how to attack. He was merely not skilled in attacks. Since he came from a Taoist sect and had lived to such an old age, it was impossible for him to be completely unfamiliar with the sword path. However, the public was under the assumption that he did not know how to attack as well. At this moment, the 6 compatible seal was converted into an attack. This was probably Hua Wudao's final trump card and final struggle. The used sword remained sharp, and the old man remained firm. It did not feel good to have a sword pierce through one's chest. Only when his mind registered the pain did Zhu Yan realize he had been stabbed. His blood gushed out and dripped to the ground. He looked murderous. He scattered all his talismans with his dissipating primal chi. The talismans utilized the primal chi within 100 meters and formed energy swords. The talismans continued to burn as primal chi gathered around them. Hua Wudao chuckled. If Hua Yuxing's dead, there's no reason for me to continue living. The talisman sword formation Zhu Yuan unleashed at the moment before his death was almost complete. What a madman! Leng Luo shook his head. Both of them were fighting with their lives. At the Evil Sky Pavilion, Lu Zhou saw this scene as well. He shook his head. Hua Wudao thinks you're dead. When Hua Yuxing heard this, she was worried. She knew Hua Wudao treated her differently. For a time, she had difficulty voicing her thoughts and emotions. Finally, she cried out, "Pavilion Master, please do something." Lu Zhou looked around their surroundings. The 7 great sects were still in hiding. If he could not take him out in one fell swoop, it would be a shame. However, if he did not save Hua Wudao would most definitely die. At this moment, 2 figures seemed to be pulled by Leng Luo over to Hua Wudao. Lu Zhou focused his gaze. Was that not Duan Musheng and Little Yuanair? Leng Luo said with a deep voice. Little girl, your Nirvana sash. Oh, Little Yuanair had been honing her control over her weapon for a long time now. She finally had the chance to put it into practice. Her Nirvana sash danced in the air and flew toward Hua Wudao at a terrifying speed. Duan Musheng pushed Leng Luo from the back. He was supporting Leng Luo with his vigorous primal chi. Leng Luo kept sending out hand seals as he worked with Little Yuanair, who sent the Nirvana sash toward Hua Wudao to protect him. The remaining Evil Sky Pavilion disciples stared with their mouths agape. Zhu Honggong said excitedly, "You can do that. Awesome, little junior sister. You're amazing." The sword formation in the air advanced on Hua Wudao. The 7 great sects communicated among themselves within the forest. Get ready. The Evil Sky Pavilion disciples are making a move. Get ready. Tell the 2 of them to sneak up on old villain G from the back of the mountain. This time, up to 1,000 cultivators from the 7 great sects swarmed out. There were huge chariots on land, huge chariots in the air, and mounts of varying grades. Leng Luo glanced at them and said, "Little girl, retract your Nirvana sash. Focus." Oh, Little Yuanair held her breath and sharpened her focus. Her Nirvana sash responded to her. It wrapped around Hua Wudao and pulled him back swiftly. She exclaimed in joy and excitement. This is handy. In her excitement, the Nirvana sash slowed for a second. Leng Luo struck with his palm. His vigorous primal chi flowed along the Nirvana sash and boosted its speed. Like a web, it caught Hua Wudao and kept him out of the range of the energy swords. The talisman's energy swords were truly terrifying. However, their weakness was obvious as well. When they erupted, they could not travel too far away from Zhu Yuan. Zhu Yuan was already heavily wounded and would not last long. He could not possibly travel with the sword formation in tow. Bam! 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 The energy swords struck the Nirvana sash. Hua Wudao thought that he was a dead man. However, when he saw the evil Sky Pavilion disciples and Leng Luo trying to save him so desperately, he cried out in fury and unleashed every bit of primal chi from his Danshan Sea of Chi. He brought the Nirvana sash with him as he flew out of the range of the sword formation. At this moment, the 1.000 strong cultivators from the 7 great sects finally appeared under the moonlight. Zhu Yuan placed a hand on the gaping wound on his chest. His eyes gleamed coldly. Curses. As soon as Zhu Yan spoke, from the evil Sky Pavilion's great hall, an energy arrow that seemed slimmer than the ones before but shone with a blue light shot toward him. Hua Yuxing is still alive. The others looked up at the energy arrow from the evil Sky Pavilion under the moonlight. Its target was Zhu Yuan, the sect master of the Celestial Masters sect. Block it. 5 cultivators raised their weapons to form a shield. Strangely, the energy arrow flew through the shield as though the shield was made of tofu. It flew and pierced the 5 cultivators' hearts before it finally pierced Zhu Yuan. The arrow that shot through the clouds stunned everyone present on the scene, especially the people from the 7 great sects. Since when did Hua Yuxing become this powerful? The casual arrow shot did not look special save for the faint blue radiance, compared to the arrow fired by the godly archer hidden among the trees. It was much slimmer. Taoist Master Zhu Yuan, the sect master of the Celestial Masters sect, was heavily injured by Hua Wudao. He was already on the brink of death. Before he died, the only thing he could do was ignite and send out all the talismans he had on him. The arrow shot caused the cultivators from the 7 great sects who had swarmed out from their hiding spot to fall silent for a short while. They could tell by the unique sound of the arrow sailing through the air that the arrow was powerful. It was beyond the capacity of ordinary people to comprehend this. Usually, after cultivators condensed their primal chi into energy, whether it was in the shape of a saber, a sword, or an energy seal, the further it traveled, the more it would be eroded by the air. Hence, when an archer wanted to hit a target over a long distance, they would usually form bigger energy arrows. However, this faint blue energy arrow was different. It was slim and exquisite. The whistling sound was also higher pitch compared to ordinary arrows. When it pierced the energy layers and their bodies, it packed a greater punch. How did Hua Yuxing accomplish this from her hiding spot? She was only at the 3-leaf stage. It should have been impossible for her to fire an energy arrow such as this one. After a brief moment of stillness, the cultivators from the 7 great sects snapped back to their senses. The lifeless bodies of Zhu Yuan and the 5 cultivators could no longer maintain flight and fell to the ground. Ding! Killed a target. Reward. 1.500 merit points. Ding! Killed a target. Reward. 50 merit points. When Lu Zhou received the notifications, he shook his head. The values of the 5 cultivators who acted as human shields were very low. He turned and returned the falling moon bow to Hua Yuxing. He saw Hua Yuxing staring at him with her mouth agape, so he reminded her. Take this. Of course. Hua Yuxing snapped back to her senses and hastily took the bow. You should use the most suitable energy arrows when you're firing rapidly instead of focusing on power alone. Lu Zhou said, Thank you for your teaching, Pavilion Master. She had gained a lot from witnessing this arrow shot. When she fired her arrows previously, she merely sought speed and power. There were often moments where her target was already too far away. But she was still condensing a huge energy arrow. It was counterproductive. Pavilion Master, aren't you continuing? After learning so much from a single arrow shot from an elite displaying his skills, Hua Yuxing, naturally, wanted to see more. Lu Zhou flipped his right hand. Unnamed materialized in his grasp. Before Hua Yuxing could have a good look, Unnamed had already transformed into a mini bow. This is Unnamed bow. Lu Zhou looked down at the battlefield. Hua Yuxing felt excited. She looked at Unnamed bow that was smaller than her falling moon bow. She could tell Lu Zhou's bow was much more superior to hers. After all, there were differences among heaven-grade weapons as well. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and waited for his chance. The heavenly writing's extraordinary power combined with a heaven-grade weapon could effectively suppress the elites of the 7 great sects if they were put to good use. As he looked at the incoming elites from the 7 great sects, he muttered to himself, "They're only the vanguard. Since they like to hide, I'll play along, shooting arrows from the dark." Hua Yuxing frowned. At first, however, she soon understood that it was only natural for an archer to remain hidden in the distance and fire arrows at unsuspecting enemies. Her aiming spot had been too open earlier. She was nearly taken out by the enemy's godly archer because of that. A senior's experience and thoughts about combat were something that left the juniors in the dust. Meanwhile, after Zhu Yuan, the sect master of the Celestial Masters sect, died, Hua Wudao safely returned to Zhu Honggong and Zhao Yue's sides. However, due to the intense expenditure of energy before this, he seemed pale. When he landed, he staggered slightly before stabilizing his footing. Zhu Honggong supported Hua Wudao. "That was amazing. The tortoiseshell technique has truly widened my horizons." Hua Wudao had no time to entertain Zhu Honggong's flattery. He turned to glance at the evil Sky Pavilion's Great Hall. Annoyed, the troops from the 7 great sects advanced slowly. The Yun sect's 9 elders felt relieved as they blended in with the others. Leng Luo looked up ahead and said, "Duan Musheng, little girl, go back." "I won't." Little Yuaneg glared at her opponents. "Elder Leng, you've spent too much of your energy. You should head back. Little junior sister and I can handle this," Duan Musheng said before he shot up into the air and raised his overlord spear. Little Yuaner flew up to his side. The flying chariot stopped. "Where is old villain Ji?" Duan Musheng raised his overlord spear and asked. "Who's asking?" "I am Feng Qing'er of the Zhenqing branch." Nearby, another voice rang from another flying chariot. "I'm the Hengchu branch's master, Ning Liang. I'm Good Fortune Temple's current abbess, Miao Yin. I am 7 Stars Villa's master, Jia Yuan. I am Core Heart Sect's master, Lu Rushi. I am the Duanlin branch's first disciple, Xiao Jinan, the mainstay of the 7 great sects." They were all here, apart from Zhu Yan, the sect master of the Celestial Masters sect, master, who died from an arrow piercing his vital organs a moment ago. Only 6 flying chariots were left hovering above the disciples of the sects. Even the previous force of the 10 great sects to storm Golden Court Mountain could not compare to this. Duan Musheng snorted and said, "How bold of you to provoke the evil Sky Pavilion time and time again. Do you think the evil Sky Pavilion won't retaliate?" Feng Qing'er chuckled and said, "All of us here have core disciples who lost their lives to the evil Sky Pavilion. Not only did you go on a killing spree, targeting the 10 great sects, but you didn't even spare the Yun sect. Do I need to elaborate further? You can dump your crap somewhere else." Duan Musheng could not help but curse. He brandished his overlord spear, and several energy seals spun and emerged from the tip of his spear. Bam! 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 Feng Qing'er stood inside his flying chariot while striking with his palms. His expansive heavenly energy flowed like a river and parried the overlord spear's energy blade. At this juncture, there was nothing more to be said. The noble and fiend paths had fallen out completely, and this did not happen overnight. At the end of the day, it had to be settled on the battlefield. "You should tell the old villain Ji to show himself." The disciples below struck the ground with their weapons. Dong, dong, dong. The noise resonated throughout Golden Court Mountain. Leng Luo looked up at the moon. This was destined to be a night of disturbances. How would the evil Sky Pavilion survive this ordeal? When he looked at the scale of the enemy forces, he was losing his confidence. If he was alone, with his strength and cultivation base, he would have long fled. Alas, he was not alone. At this moment, several cultivators flew toward Duan Musheng. They engaged in battle, and their energies collided. The core individuals of the 7 sects inside the flying chariots would not show themselves so easily. They occasionally shot an energy seal at Duan Musheng. Bam! 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 Duan Musheng brandished his weapon and parried the energy seals. The enemy's attention seemed to be completely focused on him at this moment. Hua Wudao can't continue fighting, and Leng Luo is merely putting up a show. Only the disciples of the evil Sky Pavilion are worth our concern. There's nothing to fear if they aren't at the 5-leaf stage and above. I'd like to see how long old villain Ji can stay hidden. Lu Rushi, the sect master of the core heart sect, walked out of his flying chariot. He had only just shown his face when a mini energy arrow with a faint blue glow shot out from the evil Sky Pavilion's great hall. Whoosh! The sound was crisp and deafening. When Lu Rushi saw this, he said in a deep voice, "I'm not as stupid as Zhu Yuan." Zhu Yuan had been heavily wounded while Lu Rushi was in top condition. There was no way he would be unable to block this little energy arrow. He adjusted his position slightly but instantly discovered the energy arrow had shifted its trajectory as well. It was as though the energy arrow was homing in on him. The disciples from the 7 great sects looked up at Lu Rushi. Lu Rushi raised his arms and erected an energy shield before himself. He seemed to shine with a golden light. Whoosh! The energy arrow easily pierced through the energy shield. Lu Rushi's body, the flying chariot behind him, and the cultivator who manned the helm at the back of the flying chariot. Lu Rushi's eyes widened as he stared at the evil Sky Pavilion. The air seemed to freeze over again. Sect Master Lu, what's wrong? It had happened too quickly. Lu Rushi did not even get a good glimpse of the energy arrow when it pierced his chest. The evil Sky Pavilion's godly archer, Hua Yuxing. Impossible, she can't be this powerful. Damn it. The evil Sky Pavilion is firing arrows from the dark. What's wrong with firing arrows from the dark? Isn't normal for the fiend path to employ such methods? The people from the evil Sky Pavilion thought to themselves. Although the dim moonlight did not illuminate much, everyone still saw Lu Rushi, the sect master of the core heart sect, falling off his chariot. That's amazing, Lady Hua, Pan Zheng praised as he flew above their heads. Get lost. Can't you keep your mouth shut if you have nothing better to say? Boom! Lu Rushi fell to the ground. The members of the 7 great sects, or technically, the 8 great sects, and several other minor sects stood riveted on the ground as they stared at the fallen Lu Rushi. Boom! 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 Under the assault of the Fiend Extermination Alliance disciples, Duan Musheng retreated. He looked in the direction of the evil Sky Pavilion while noting the numbness of his arms. He was not alone in this. The disciples of the 7 great sects looked at the evil Sky Pavilion as well. Someone was shooting arrows from the shadows. It was not as simple as the arrow that had killed Zhu Yuan. The arrow that killed Lu Rushi was much smaller. Lu Rushi did not even have a chance to unleash his skills. How could the disciples not be terrified? A cloud of panic seemed to descend on the 7 great sects. They were still stumped by this baffling turn of events when an energy arrow as thick as a tree trunk shining with a golden light shot out. It was glowing so brightly that it was difficult not to notice it. Whiz! The arrow's speed was so fast that its noise was extraordinarily loud. Our turn. A powerful archer had to use his own hiding spot well while figuring out where the enemy's archers were. It was easy for an archer to expose his own position. The energy arrow that was as thick as a tree trunk seemed to carry the hopes of the 7 great sects with it. From the westernmost part of the forest, it sailed toward the evil Sky Pavilion in the east. Everyone's eyes were trained on that energy arrow. The dark area in the evil Sky Pavilion was instantly illuminated by this enormous energy arrow. At this moment, they thought they saw the figure of an old man standing casually before the pavilion. The old man raised his wizened hand that glowed blue as though he was wearing a blue glove. Capture hand seal. Boom! Sparks flew as though someone had set off fireworks. The energy arrow was caught by the old man and soon vanished. Old villain G. It's the old villain. He's the one who fired that arrow. Stand back. The 7 flying chariots retreated. The disciples retreated as well. If they could put more distance between them, the impact of the energy arrows would lessen as well. However, this move shook the morale of their side. Many of the 7 great sects' disciples were frightened and fell to the ground due to their legs weakening. In fact, many of them who joined this assault had done so in the heat of the moment. They only realized how terrifying the evil Sky Pavilion was now that they were on the battlefield. Let alone old villain G. Just these few people were enough to intimidate the 7 great sects. Greetings, Pavilion Master. Greetings, Master. The voices of the evil Sky Pavilion's members greeted Lu Zhou in thunderously loud voices. Lu Zhou nodded and stroked his beard. His eyes were fixed on the forest far beyond the 7 great sects. He projected his voice. Ji Yuanchang, why are you hiding? Since when did you become such a coward? Clearly, this question was not directed toward the 7 great sects. Ji Yuanchang was an old godly archer who was closest to his great limit. He did not affiliate with any sect for the longest time and produced many outstanding disciples in the past. The leader of the divine capital's 3 godly archers, Chen Zhu, was only a disciple of his disciple. As a godly archer, it was impossible for Hua Yuxing to not know the name Ji Yuanchang. She stared at the dark forest with a shocked expression. Feng Qing'er replied in Ji Yuanchang's stead. Old Senior Ji is a godly archer. It's par for course that he doesn't show himself. Old villain Ji, aren't you hiding as well? Then, I shall show myself. Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he stepped forward on air. He slowly emerged from the darkness before the evil Sky Pavilion. With every step he took, a radiant circle would appear. He walked with ease and composure. A few dark strands of his hair glinted in the moonlight among his white-silver hair. Under this circumstance, Lu Zhou's appearance seemed like an exact copy of G.T. Andao when he had just transmigrated here. The disciples of the 7 great sects inhaled deeply. Their eyes were wide open as they stared at Lu Zhou in the sky. Although they could not see his face, based on his long robes, white hair, and the attitude of the members of the evil Sky Pavilion, they were certain the old man was the master of the evil Sky Pavilion. The all-powerful great villain who dominated the world under the heavens. Lu Zhou gauged his remaining extraordinary power. The first arrow that killed Zhu Yuan had used up 1/5 of his power. Zhu Yuan was a dying man to begin with. The arrow merely expedited his death. The second arrow that killed Lu Rushi, the sect master of the core heart sect, used 1/3 of the heavenly writing's extraordinary power. Lu Rushi was a formidable opponent. After all, then, he had used up 1/3 of his extraordinary power to catch Ji Yuanchang's arrow. In other words, he was left with slightly less than 1/3 of his extraordinary power. For this reason, he decided to reveal himself. With this, he would probably be able to lure all his enemies out into the open. Just as Lu Zhou had expected, Ji Yuanchang could not restrain himself when he heard Lu Zhou's words. He hovered above the forest and loudly said, "Old villain, you killed my disciple's disciple. I'll end you with my own hands this very night." Ji Yuanchang, a powerful individual who had lived for several centuries, raised his bow and arrow. Chen Zhu was from the other tribe. "Sanye, are you fighting for another tribesman?" "Nonsense. I can definitely tell if he was another tribesman or not." Lu Zhou shook his head. He completely ignored the leaders of the 7 great sects before him. He stepped forward and said indifferently, "I thought you'd be a reasonable man since you're the patriarch of the godly archers." Alas! Lu Zhou flipped his right palm. A mini vortex appeared above it. There was a surge of primal chi that the 7 great sects clearly felt. They retreated at once. Fall back now." The disciples of the 7 great sects were scared out of their wits by this. "Stand your ground. We will succeed in this battle or die trying. Defectors shall be persecuted and killed." With that statement, the disciples of the 7 great sects were cowed. They reluctantly stayed put. Could they fall back now? Of course not. This is our last chance before his great limit. Anyone who steps back will be cut down. Feng Qing'er's voice was laced with his expansive heavenly energy. It stabilized the mental states of the disciples. Yes, this was their last chance since the old villain's great limit was approaching. They were already so far in. Could they really back out now? Meanwhile, Lu Zhou moved his hand and tossed the vortex out. The great seal of fearlessness. There was nothing within sight that was to be feared. The shining golden seal shot toward Ji Yuanchang at a swift speed. Ji Yuanchang cried out and knocked an energy arrow. This scene was reminiscent of Chen Zhu, who did his best to resist at Measure Heaven River. The disciple's disciple and the master were similar. He grew stronger as his opponent was stronger, and he would kill a god if he was facing a god. Bam! 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 Several energy arrows hit the hand seal and merely caused a weak ripple on its surface. It did nothing to slow its advance. The hand seal sailed past between two flying chariots. Swoosh! 1/3 of both flying chariots were damaged by the Great Seal of Fearlessness. Dozens of disciples who did not know how to fly fell to the ground. Loud resounding wails rang in the air. The Great Seal of Fearlessness shot past the flying chariot and continued to sail toward Ji Yuanchang. At this moment, Ji Yuanchang finally realized something was amiss. He immediately flew into the distance as if his life depended on it. The Great Seal of Fearlessness seemed to have eyes of its own. It struck Ji Yuanchang's body at lightning speed. Smack! Ji Yuanchang disintegrated into ashes before they scattered in the air. The forest was quiet as a graveyard now. The disciples of the 7 great sects lost all ability to think and breathe. The confidence and morale that Feng Qing'er had so roused with great difficulty was shaken again. Under such circumstances, was it possible for one to maintain their composure? This was a deadly strike card. Lu Zhou did not even consider the cost. He had to take out this elite who could fire arrows from the shadows. No matter the cost, Lu Zhou stepped forward again. Feng Qing'er's gaze was sharp and cold, but his heart was racing. His scalp prickled and turned numb. At this juncture, he had no other choice but to force himself to act. He said commandingly, "Disciples willing to sacrifice their lives for a good cause, charge!" The cultivators around the 7 flying chariots swarmed toward Lu Zhou like flies. Master, Pavilion Master. On the Evil Sky Pavilion's side, Duan Musheng and Little Yuaner were the only ones who had been conserving their strength. Leng Luo was only left with enough energy to run away. When they saw this, they wanted to fend off the attackers. However, they could only stare at Lu Zhou helplessly at this moment. A ripple spread out with every step Lu Zhou took. A blue lotus emerged under his feet, and his body shone with a faint blue light. Having lived a long life, I have slain 1,000,000 demons. They'll have to pay a heavy price for this even if they're from the 7 great sects. With a Tao transforming Divine Court Realm cultivation base, none of the nascent Divinity Realm elites would have taken him seriously in the past. There was a saying in the cultivation world, those below the nascent Divinity Realm were maggots. Cultivators who had not entered the nascent Divinity Realm were destined to be minor characters. In any case, regardless of cultivations, since time immemorial, the strong had always looked down on the weak. For example, those in the Divine Court Realm looked down on those in the Brahman Sea Realm. Those in the nascent Divinity Realm looked down on those in the Divine Court Realm. And 5-leaf elites looked down on 4-leaf elites. However, on this day, everyone from the Evil Sky Pavilion and the 7 great sects did not dare to underestimate old villain Ji, who was only in the Divine Court Realm. Many elites had tried to probe his cultivation base to find out if his cultivation base had deteriorated. They arrived at the conclusion that he was in the Divine Court Realm. At this moment, Lu Zhou looked at the cultivators who were swarming toward him apathetically. The blue lotus under his feet and its shadow grew bigger and bigger. Then, the blue lotus blossomed. Its power spilled into the surroundings like a tidal wave. To gain the power to silence everything. To maintain and manifest samadhi. Like light and shadow, permeating everywhere while staying still in samadhi. When the blue lotus blossomed, the cultivators who were flying toward Lu Zhou were sent flying back. The members of the Evil Sky Pavilion widened their eyes in shock when they witnessed this scene. No matter how many times they watched Lu Zhou make a move, he never failed to broaden their horizons. Hua Wudao, Duan Musheng, Xiao Yue, and Little Yuaner found this scene rather. Previously, when Lu Zhou was cultivating in seclusion in the hidden chamber, they had attempted to break into the chamber. What they had seen then was rather similar to what they were seeing now. The only difference was the area of coverage and the power were much greater than before. Boom, boom, boom. The disciples from the 7 great sects who were sent flying back spat out mouthfuls of blood. The tidal wave of power swept over the 7 flying chariots as well, causing them to shake violently before they crashed to the ground. At this moment, the members of the Evil Sky Pavilion realized that the power did not discriminate between friend and foe. Leng Luo, who was the most experienced among the lot, cried out, "Fall back!" The members of the evil Sky Pavilion retreated to a safe place in the air and continued to watch the battle. "What technique is this?" Hua Wudao mumbled. "I don't know," Leng Luo replied. "I don't know as well." Zhu Honggong replied as well. "Ow, little junior sister, what did you pinch me?" Little Yuanair pinched her own cheeks and said, "Oh, it's not a dream." Quote. At this moment, Lu Zhou had exhausted his heavenly writing's extraordinary power. The notifications of merit points kept ringing in his ears. One Divine Court Realm cultivator was only worth 10 merit points. He felt it was too low. There was no reward for killing cultivators in the body tempering realm and below. There were too many of them. Nearly 70% of the cultivators from the 7 great sects, including a few nascent divinity tribulation realm elders, were taken down by the heavenly writing power. Nearly half these numbers were dead. Lu Zhou maintained flight in the air and looked down at the other from his high vantage point. He shook his head. He was quite dissatisfied with the heavenly writing power because he only killed roughly 30% of those people. There was nothing he could. After all, his attack only contained 10% of his extraordinary power. With that amount of power, it would be difficult for him to kill a slightly powerful nascent divinity tribulation realm cultivator. Let alone extraordinary nascent divinity tribulation realm cultivators. In any case, although the attack was too weak for his liking, he managed to put on a great show and looked imposing. Well, as long as he looked good, the other matters were insignificant. At this moment, the surviving cultivators were retreating. The 9 elders of the Yun sect were among those who were retreating. They were in great pain. Meanwhile, Ning Liang, the master of the Hengchu branch master, Feng Qing'er, the master of the Zhenqing branch, Jia Yuan, the master of 7 Stars Villa, Miao Yin, the abbess of Good Fortune Temple, and Xiao Jinan, the first disciple of Duanlan branch, maintained flight at a low altitude. Their hands were pressed against their chests as they looked at Lu Zhou in shock. He was too powerful. 5 of them clenched their fists and gulped. Without the protection of their flying chariots, they were in a disadvantageous position. Feng Qing'er gulped. He looked at Lu Zhou, who was looking down at them, unable to put his feelings into words. In truth, he did not expect Lu Zhou's earlier attack to do so much damage. He mustered up his courage as he took a deep breath. Now was not the time to nurse his injured ego. He tried to boost the others' morale. Stay calm. That must have been his original wide area seal technique. The Celestial Masters sect and Zhenqing branch's seal eruption talismans can also do it. Although the 5 sect masters of the 5 sects survived and had yet to summon their avatars, their blood essence was roiling in their bodies due to the attack. They nearly spat out mouthfuls of blood themselves. At this moment, all 5 of them were trying to stabilize their breaths with their primal qi. The Duanlan branch's first disciple, Xiao Jinan, said, "Senior Feng, do you think we'll succeed?" Feng Qing'er glanced at him and said, "Believe me, in any case, we have no other way out." Pan Lishan was powerful, but he was still taken down by our Zhenqing branch. The others exchanged a glance and nodded, coming to a tacit agreement to become heroes standing atop the bones of their comrades. Miao Yin, the abbess of Good Fortune Temple, said, "Just as well, who should descend to the depths of hell if not I? Disciples, heed my call." Miao Yin's disciples standing on the ground rose into the air immediately. Feng Qing'er gave her a thumbs up and said in a clear voice, "Listen up, everyone, old villain Ji won't be able to last for long. This is his dying burst of power. Don't be afraid." All he needed to do was make sure the disciples from the 7 sects remained in position. Whether his claim was true or not was unimportant. Lu Zhou hovered in the air, trying to think of his next move. "I only have 2 deadly strike cards left. Fortunately, I have 1 peak card. Are the elites ever going to come out of their hiding places?" He did not use his peak card because the group of elites in hiding would immediately run away after seeing the peak card. He would not be able to track them down afterward. The disciples of the 7 great sects were baffled when they saw Ji Tiandao seemingly lost in thought while he hovered in the air. They had no idea what was going through his mind. At this moment, the disciples of Good Fortune Temple were in their positions. Dozens of nuns straightened their palms by their lips. Their voices droned on and on as they chanted. Lu Zhou shook his head. How futile. All skills were futile in the face of extreme power. He flipped his right palm. An item card materialized in his hand, GT Andao's peak trial card. At this moment, there was a sudden flash of movement in the southeastern corner of the forest. A figure joined his palms and held a talisman between them. Then, he sailed through the air like a fired arrow. Old villain G, don't you dare lay your hands on my disciples. The Duanlan branch disciples exclaimed in shock. Patriarch. Feng Qing'er was overjoyed. Well done, Duanlan branch's patriarch, you finally made a move. Chang Yan's face was flushed, and his eyes were bloodshot. He was a man who was nearing his great limit, but his appearance seemed abnormal. It was clear he had taken the primal fiend potion. With the boost from the potion, he was now at the peak of his cultivation base. Everyone watched as Chang Yan attacked. In their opinion, Lu Zhou would be heavily injured, if not die. Bam! The disciples of the 7 great sects looked on expectantly. Swoosh! A cone-shaped energy field appeared before Chang Yan's palms as he flew straight toward Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou paused as he looked at Chang Yan for a moment. Then, he shook his head and said, very well. He shattered the peak trial card in his wizened hand. The instant the peak card shattered, a spot of starlight shot out of his palm and swirled around his body. His weak divine court realm Danshan's sea of qi was instantly filled to the brim. Even his extraordinary 8 meridians were bursting with power. He knew the elites in hiding would not recklessly show themselves. In the end, he decided to use the peak card to clear the people before him. The appearance of Chang Yan, the patriarch of the Duanlan branch, was a welcome surprise. GT Andao's power at his peak returned to Lu Zhou. In fact, his power seemed to have surpassed that of GT Andao at this moment. You want to die? I'll grant you your wish. Lu Zhou's expression remained calm as he raised his right hand that shone with a golden light in Chang Yan's direction. Bam! Why is old villain G so powerful? Lu Zhou blocked Chang Yan's all-out attack with his bare hands. Everything seemed to have frozen over at this moment. Everyone's eyes were wide open. They did not dare to blink, afraid they would miss a moment of this grand standoff. Everyone was amazed that old villain G managed to block the attack. As it turned out, he was still standing above everyone, and his cultivation base did not deteriorate. Chang Yan, who had taken the primal fiend potion, was defeated with just a single hand. Everyone shuddered when they saw this. Old villain G. Why you? Chang Yan's eyes widened. Let's die together. You're dreaming. Lu Zhou clenched his fist. A huge capture hand seal shot out from his palm. It resembled a Buddha hand seal when it grew in size. Boom! Scattered ashes and dispersed smoke. So what if Chang Yan was the patriarch of the Duanlan branch? So what if he had taken the primal fiend potion? So what if his strength was at the peak of the 8-leaf? All it took was one move from Lu Zhou to kill him. Lu Zhou had made this move to save time. After all, he did not have to worry about his consumption of primal qi. He could use the most powerful versions of all his moves as he pleased. The members of the 7 great sects were stunned. Why is old villain G so powerful? No, impossible. Even if one had everyone's support, could one remain unafraid when faced with such an elite? Even a stupid person would not stubbornly insist that GT Andao was on his deathbed after witnessing this. The people from the 7 great sects were frightened out of their wits. We should run. Lu Zhou moved swiftly. The grand technique, soul chase. Bam! Lu Zhou's palm strike landed on the first disciple of the Duanlan branch who had turned around to flee. Xiao Jinan died immediately, his body falling from the sky. Lu Zhou did not waste time and cast another technique. Energy swords crashed down on his enemies like a tidal wave. The Good Fortune Temple disciples who remained in the air were still chanting. Their fly-like voices were too insignificant to mention. They were soon overwhelmed and destroyed by the wave of energy swords and dropped from the sky. How's this possible? Miao Yin, the abbess of Good Fortune Temple, widened her eyes. Her straightened palm was shaking. When she looked up, she suddenly discovered that the old man, who was shining with a golden radiance, was already hovering before her. Old villain G. Lu Zhou struck with his palm. Repent, and you'll be absolved of your crimes. I'll send you on your way on Buddha's behalf. He launched his 9 cuts hand seals successively in the air. They formed a line and pierced Miao Yin's body. Lu Zhou did not even look at her. He unleashed his grand technique and vanished. Miao Yin felt a deep sense of helplessness and despair welling up in her heart. Her blood gushed out from the gaping hole on her chest. She tried to circulate her primal qi to staunch the bleeding, but she realized that her Danshan sea of qi was already destroyed by that absolute force. She struggled to raise her arm to manually stop the bleeding, but she failed due to lack of strength. She looked up with a pitiable expression at the evil sky pavilion. At this moment, the evil sky pavilion disciples jumped into the fray as though they had been injected with an energy booster. Miao Yin could only watch. The energy swords that filled the skies no longer had anything to do with her. Her life was swiftly draining away, and it would end once she was emptied of primal qi. She turned her head at this moment and witnessed a scene that she would bring to her grave. Whiz! A powerful resonance of primal qi resounded across the battlefield. Lu Zhou had summoned his avatar. A shining golden 100 tribulations insight avatar towered above everything in the air. This avatar was too tall and too huge. It was 150 feet tall. Miao Yin instinctively looked at the golden lotus under the avatar's feet. With the remnants of her life force and consciousness, she counted 1 leaf, 2 leaves, 3 leaves, 7 leaves, 8 leaves, and 9 leaves. Realization dawned on Miao Yin. Everything was clear now. She chuckled weakly. My death isn't a mistake. Amitabha. Dust to dust. Dirt to dirt. A blast of energy exploded, and Miao Yin dissolved in the air and was scattered into the surroundings by the wind. ... When the avatar appeared, it expanded, released primal qi, and it took up more space. Several hundred cultivators were felled in just an instant. Lu Zhou kept unleashing his grand technique, flitting among his enemies. This was akin to a hyper-powered version of the Dao invisibility. Leng Luo's heart raced just by watching this. He had thought his skill was second to none when he moved at top speed, leaving afterimages in his wake before killing Fang Wenxian. However, compared to Lu Zhou's avatar that occupied the entire foot of the mountain, he was nothing. Screams of agony rang in the air. With the disciples of the Evil Sky Pavilion joining the battle, the Evil Sky Pavilion moved forward with a crushing momentum. There was no resistance at all. Hua Wudao muttered, I think I understand now. The Pavilion Master must have done it on purpose. No wonder he could easily launch a 10 script 6 compatible seal. I feel better now. Leng Luo looked at the huge avatar and chimed in. Perhaps, joining the Evil Sky Pavilion is the best decision I've ever made in my life. Zhu Honggong leaped out and laughed maniacally before he said, Charge, my brethren, charge. I love this feeling of pushing others around by taking advantage of my position. Charge. Hua Wudao and Leng Luo were puzzled. They sighed. How did a brilliant person like the Pavilion Master produce such a third-rate disciple? Is he too used to being a gang leader? Meanwhile, Lu Zhou kept an eye on the remaining time of the peak trial card as he unleashed his grand technique again. Run, quick. The confidence and morale of the people from the 7 great sects were completely crushed at this moment. Lu Zhou's great limit, their detailed preparations, and plans, all of them were futile before Lu Zhou's absolute strength. The Grand Formation. Retreat to the Grand Formation. The battle shifted into the forest. Lu Zhou's 9-leaf golden lotus was like a grass cutter as it sliced through the trees. Jia Yuan, the master of the 7 Stars Villa, fled like the wind. He activated his avatar and burned his sea of qi as he ran away in a frenzy. Boom! Jia Yuan discovered his avatar had run into something. He looked up and saw a huge avatar blocking his path. Lu Zhou was hovering inside the 150-foot avatar. Too slow. The avatar raised a hand before slapping it down. No! Jia Yuan's avatar shattered like glass by the hand seal. His person was mashed into an unidentifiable flesh pulp on the ground. Lu Zhou vanished with his avatar again. The forest within 1.000 meters of the battle was destroyed overnight. Nearly all of the disciples of the 7 great sects were dead by now. Niang Ling, the Hengchu branch's master, burned his sea of qi and had been maintaining his expansive heavenly energy for a long time now. At this moment, he had mentally broken down. He smacked his forehead repeatedly as he cried out, We're dead. We're dead. Why? Why? Rather than being tortured to death under the endless fear, he would rather end his own life. Trying to kill yourself, you'll have to go through me. Whiz. The primal chi in the surroundings seemed to have frozen over. When Ning Liang looked up, he saw a huge hand seal falling on him. He did not even see Lu Zhou before he was crushed by the hand seal. He was only a 7-leaf cultivator. It was an extremely far cry from a 9-leaf cultivator. Formation. Lu Zhou's avatar swept through the formation. The formation veins had just been activated when they were destroyed by this huge avatar. The remaining members of the 7 great sects lost all their will to escape. Many low-ranking cultivators could not take it anymore. They were so frightened that they lay trembling on the ground. The formation was laughable. Could a low-rank formation control a 9-leaf cultivator? Lu Zhou hovered in midair with his avatar. He observed the battlefield triumphantly. Who's next? When Lu Zhou shattered the peak trial card, he did not intend to spare anyone. He looked around, trying to see if there was anyone he had missed. When he turned to look at the battle in the southeastern corner, he saw, amidst a tidal pool of power, a white figure was killing the cultivators from the 7 great sects in a frenzy. Blue Waves Technique. Yi Tianxin. Lu Zhou's 150-foot avatar hovered in the air and towered over everything. He seemed calm, unsurprised by Yi Tianxin's appearance. Ever since he had read the letter Yu Shangrong had entrusted Yi Tianxin to send, he knew Yi Tianxin was still around. However, he had to admit he did not expect her to show at this moment to kill the enemies. Regardless, time was ticking. He did not have time to think about such trivial matters. Moreover, he did not need help from a mere 6-leaf cultivator. Saying that, although she had been banished, at least, she still had some sense. In any case, he was not losing out on rewards even if she was only killing low-rank cultivators. Forget it. Let her be. The disciples from the 7 great sects were easily overwhelmed by the evil Sky Pavilion's crushing force. Even when the 9 elders of the Yun sect ignited their sea of cheese and activated their avatars, they were like ants trying to shake a tree. It had been a futile resistance. Wherever the 9-leaf golden lotus passed, everything was reduced to dust in its wake. Lu Zhou unleashed his grand technique again as he shot in another direction. He wanted to confirm if the patriarchs from the other sects were here. He would have a headache if those who were willing to throw their lives away showed up after the peak card's effect disappeared. The 150-foot avatar flitted everywhere. When Lu Zhou encountered slightly more powerful cultivators, he would mercilessly take their lives. Meanwhile, Yi Tianxian was resolved to fight her enemies to death. When she was fighting, she saw the huge avatar and was in awe. She suddenly recalled that time when her master captured her and brought her back to Golden Court Mountain. She remembered seeing the same sight in the evil Sky Pavilion. She thought that she was dreaming back then. The known limit that was achievable by cultivators was the 8-leaf stage. After all, however, this time, she was sure her eyes were not deceiving her. Master is already at the 9-leaf stage. How did he do it? Could it be that eldest senior brother is right? Master had been after the secret behind the 9-leaf stage before this. As she looked at the falling low-rank cultivators, Yi Tianxian suddenly realized her intention to help the evil Sky Pavilion seemed rather unnecessary. She was clearly not needed in this situation. Near the southeastern corner of the battlefield, the remaining wave of elders burned their sea of cheese at the same time. They seemed to be engulfed in flames as they scattered. With a soft grunt, Lu Zhou leaped into the skies with his avatar. In the skies, the 9-leaf 100 Tribulations Insight avatar was like a human-shaped sun that illuminated the area within 100 miles. The cultivators within 100 miles looked up in the direction of Golden Court Mountain. They were either shocked or awed. Those who were further away could only catch a glimpse of the light. They did not know what kind of impressive phenomena was happening. Lu Zhou summoned Unnamed and converted it into a bow. With fluid movements, he wielded the bow with his left hand and pulled on the bowstring with his right hand. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Arrows after arrows were shot out. A 9-leaf godly archer, Hu Yuxing, was staring intently at Lu Zhou as he fired volleys after volleys of arrows. It was only natural since everyone wanted to witness the grandeur of a 9-leaf cultivator. Hu Yuxing was a talented godly archer with a superior capacity for understanding than most. To begin with, even without a teacher, she reached the 3-leaf stage on her own. For a genius like her, if she had a teacher too, even if it was as minimal as pointing her down a path, it would be a great help to her. Currently, she felt as though she had been enlightened. She worked hard to etch every movement into her mind. This would be the goal she worked toward in the future. The energy arrows accurately pierced the elders who were burning their sea of cheese, and they fell in succession. So this is the 9-leaf stage. Many cultivators shared this thought the moment before they took their last breath. 9 shining golden lotus leaves and the huge avatar swept through the battlefield. In his peak state, Lu Zhou could use his primal chi as though he had an unlimited supply. He was constantly moving at top speed and unleashing his grand technique at the same time. He was still left with half of the time limit. The force of the 9-leaf stage had exceeded Lu Zhou's expectations. It was no surprise he was able to crush the 7 great sects in such a short time. However, he could not shake the feeling that there were rats hiding in the shadows. Is the 9-leaf stage too flashy? Lu Zhou waved his arm and recalled the 9-leaf avatar. He descended slowly like a falling feather. He could still feel the surging power in his body. Every time it was spent, it would be instantly replenished. ... Meanwhile, in a valley 100 miles away from the westernmost part of Golden Court Mountain, Feng Qing'er, the master of Zhenqing branch, flew at top speed as he pressed a hand on his abdomen. Among all those from the 7 great sects, it seemed like he was the only one who survived. In any case, he did not have the luxury to check if there were other survivors. Fear gripped his heart and threatened to crush it whenever he thought about the 9-leaf avatar. Why is he a 9-leaf cultivator? Why is he a FC King 9-leaf cultivator? If he did not seize the opportunity created by the chaos when he forcibly burned his sea of chi forcibly and escape when old villain Ji was sweeping through the battlefield, he would have been a corpse by now. He looked at the valley. Another mile to go. He wiped the blood off the edge of his lips and dashed forward. One was bound for good fortune after surviving a great disaster. At this moment, someone called out from behind. Sect Master, wait up! Feng Qing'er was startled with a jump. He snapped around and immediately stumbled to the ground. His eyes were wide open when he stared at the disciple who was rushing toward him. Impossible! There's someone who's as intelligent as me from the Zhengkang branch and managed to survive. Feng Qing'er gulped as he watched the disciple who was dressed in Zhenqing branch's uniform running toward him. He relaxed and asked, how did you manage to escape? I played dead. Played dead? That means you know the inner breath technique. And that you're, at least, in the divine court realm. Not bad, Feng Qing'er praised. He did not have the energy now to gauge the disciple's cultivation base. Sect Master, where are we going? That valley up ahead. I've prepared something there. Feng Qing'er shook his head and sighed. Alas, it won't be of any use. Faced with a 9-leaf cultivator, what good are all our plans? Does this mean the Zhenqing branch is done for? Watch your words. Feng Qing'er frowned. I'm sorry. After this incident, you'll be the pillar of Zhenqing branch. You'll be the Grand Elder. Come, help me up, Feng Qing'er said. I'd like to be the sect master. The disciple replied. Feng Qing'er frowned slightly. There were many who would take advantage of another person's misfortune. After holding this position for so long, he was prepared and not surprised by this kind of situation. He studied the disciple before him. He could not remember who this person was. Although Zhengkang branch could not compare to the Yun, Qian, and Luo sects, it was still a branch with thousands of members. It was impossible for him to remember each and every one of them. In any case, having lost so many of his members, he could not reprimand this disciple like he usually would. If you want to become the sect master, you'll need to earn the right and have the strength to match it. Feng Qing'er examined the disciple. Help me up now. All right, the disciple helped him up. What's your name? I'm Ri. He scratched his head. I didn't think of a proper name. What does he mean? Feng Qing'er was confused. There was a sudden cold flash of light. Zing! The moment Feng Qing'er was pulled up, the separation hook, wrapped in energy, slashed across his chest. Boom! Feng Qing'er was sent flying by this sneak attack. He flipped in the air. When he landed on his feet, he spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered backward. His eyes widened in shock as he stared at the separation hook. Clearly seeing through its grade, he coughed violently before he asked in a deep voice, "You're not a Zhenqing branch disciple. Who are you? How could he be a disciple of the Zhenqing branch?" He feigned a shocked expression before he smiled and said, "Hey, you survived a blow from my separation hook. Who are you?" Feng Qing'er took a step back and glanced at the valley. "That's not important. You're going to die. Anyway." Ming Shiyin sneered as he raised his hand. The separation hook returned to his grasp. In truth, he had been among the disciples of the Zhenqing branch. From the very beginning, he wanted to infiltrate the enemy's ranks and look for an opportunity to deal a critical blow on his enemies. However, he did not expect to witness that unforgettable scene. Before he could continue to admire his master's shocking and grand power, he tailed Feng Qing'er all the way here. He knew Feng Qing'er was not a simple character. "Do you think you're old villain G?" Feng Qing'er said in a disapproving tone. Ming Shiyin only clicked his tongue and said, "It's no wonder you managed to withstand my master's energy swords. Is it something you're wearing?" When Feng Qing'er heard this, his heart skipped a beat. An evil Sky Pavilion disciple. Ming Shiyin could not help but flip his hair and said, "All right, I'll drop the act." Feng Qing'er looked over Ming Shiyin's shoulder. He was worried old villain G would show up. Then, he said, "Comrade, let's talk this over. What do you say to letting me go? And I'll repay your kindness in the future." "There's no need for the future." "What? Remove your clothes. Then, allow my separation hook to plunge mercilessly into your heart," Ming Shiyin said with a smile. "You," Feng Qing'er scowled. "I've already burned my sea of qi anyway. If you want to die so badly, I'll grant you your wish." He raised his hand and struck his dantian twice, releasing his meridians. Half of his burnt sea of qi resumed burning. At this moment, almost all of the disciples from the 7 great sects on the battlefield near Golden Court Mountain had been cleared by Duan Musheng and the others. Lu Zhou looked at the time. He had more than 10 minutes left. Everything progressed more or less like he had expected him to. He looked around himself before he finally looked at his disciples and calmly said, "Clean this up." "Yes, Master. As you command. Your awesome might know no bounds. May you live to see." "Master, you actually attained the 9-leaf stage. I dreamt about it the other day." Master, where did Master go?" Zhu Honggong was midway through his ramblings when he discovered his master had disappeared. Then, he cried out, "Third senior brother, little junior sister, 5th senior sister. Don't ignore me." Everyone busied themselves and had no time to entertain Zhu Honggong. Lu Zhou unleashed a grand technique and reached the top of the evil sky pavilion. He found the eye of the formation and slammed a hand on it, channeling his power into it. The moon was setting. Avatar. Lu Zhou activated his 9-leaf golden lotus avatar and stood above the evil sky pavilion. "What's Master doing?" Little Yuan pointed toward the evil sky pavilion. "He's announcing that he's the greatest elite of all time. Of course. There's no one greater than him. Master, your 9-leaf stage is too cool. From this day on, you'll be my, ow, little junior sister. You pinch me again," Zhu Honggong said, cradling his cheek. When Lu Zhou was channeling his primal qi, he looked at the golden lotus under his 100 Tribulations Insight avatar. He studied it for a moment, puzzled. According to the current cultivation theory, it was difficult for cultivators to break free of the restrictions imposed by the Great Limit. Judging from what happened to Yun Tianlo, the golden lotus would absorb one's cultivation base and life, and it would take at least 1.000 years off one's tab. By severing the golden lotus, this could be overcome. However, when Lu Zhou used the peak card, he was at the 9-leaf stage. He began recalling the events when he had just transmigrated over. When he used the peak card for the first time, he was only granted the 8-leaf stage. The second time he used it was when he captured Yi Tiangxin. There were 9 leaves back then. However, he did not understand much about the golden lotus back then and did not dwell on it. This was his 4th time using the peak card. Indeed, it was a 9-leaf golden lotus. Item card. G Tiandao's peak trial card. Note: G Tiandao's peak state only lasts for 30 minutes. In other words, G Tiandao was already at the 9-leaf stage back then. However, due to his great limit, he dropped back to the 8-leaf stage. After Lu Zhou used the reversal cards, his physical body was once again back at the state where it could support the 9-leaf stage. If GT Andao had attained the 9-leaf stage long ago, how could he be heavily injured by the elites from the 10 great sects during the siege? From this, he could infer that GT Andao had attained the 9-leaf stage after his battle with the elites of the 10 great sects and before Lu Zhou transmigrated over. After a moment, a huge question popped up in Lu Zhou's mind. Where did GT Andao obtain 1.00 years of life needed to attain the 9-leaf stage? Whiz! Boom! The formation shook. This brief tremor pulled Lu Zhou out of his thoughts and back into reality. He looked up at Golden Court Mountain's formation. The barrier was lighting up. He continued to channel his primal chi at full force into it. Due to the 9-leaf stage, the formation was being repaired at an alarmingly fast speed. Inside the Cave of Reflection, Si Wuya was awakened by this huge commotion. He rushed to the mouth of the cave before his path was blocked by something. He was flustered by the cacophonous sounds of battle and the flashes of light that meant the evil sky pavilion was under threat. Bam! He lost count of the times he rammed into the Cave of Reflection's barrier. He had to get out, locate Pan Zheng, and restore his cultivation base. Master, oh, Master, you're a stubborn, old. Bam! Si Wuya staggered out of the barrier. He did not break the barrier with his strength. It was due to violent tremors from Golden Court Mountain's formation. The powerful fluctuations had affected the Cave of Reflection's formation. It was as if the entire mechanism was rebooted. The instant it rebooted, the barrier vanished. After a moment, the barrier reappeared. Si Wuya turned around to look. Perplexed, he did not have the time to think about the reason behind this. He hastily got to his feet and sprinted into the forest behind the forest. I'm the only one who can save the evil sky pavilion. Si Wuya had barely made it out of the back of the mountain when the darkened skies suddenly lit up. It was as though dawn had arrived. The entire Golden Court Mountain, the back of the mountain, the Cave of Reflection, the evil sky pavilion, the forest, and mountain ranges nearby were illuminated. Golden Court Mountain's barrier had been restored. Si Wuya stood riveted on the spot. He was awestruck. What's happening? What happened to Golden Court Mountain? Under normal circumstances, it would take 5 Divine Court Realm cultivators decades to mend the formation. It would take nascent Divinity Realm elites years if they worked at it every day. Even 8-leaf elites needed about 6 months if they worked at full strength. Why did the barrier suddenly appear? Fully mended, Si Wuya walked out of the forest. He looked up and saw a huge avatar towering above the evil sky pavilion. It shone with a dazzling golden radiance. Under the avatar, a golden lotus was spinning slowly. 9 leaves spun with the lotus. Si Wuya stumbled back in shock. Every time one of the 9 leaves pointed at him, he felt as though he was being slapped. He mocked himself inwardly. How foolish. My hubris has blinded me. I thought I was the only one who could save the evil sky pavilion. I even said Master is a stubborn old man. Si Wuya prided himself on his judgment and intelligence. However, at this moment, they seemed to be mercilessly shattered and trampled on by the 9 leaves.